Gentlemen is a 2019 action crime film directed by Guy Ritchie, starring Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam, Jeremy Strong, Colin Farrell, Henry Golding, Hugh Grant, and Michelle Dockery. The story revolves around Matthew McConaughey, an aging drug dealer who's trying to get out of the game and sell his very profitable marijuana business to the highest bidder. This, of course, causes a bidding war between the criminal underworld, and chaos ensues. Going into this film, I really didn't know what to expect. It had a great cast. The film's cast is amazing, but a lot of crime dramas, crime thrillers can be kind of boring at times. The film takes a totally different tone. I think that's the thing that really differentiates this film from a lot of other films. It's actually very funny, and the characters in this film are amazing. They are really over the top. I gotta, tip my hat to Hugh Grant, because Hugh Grant in this role, I don't know if he's ever played a character like this. He plays a really sleazy reporter, like investigative reporter, who just is the worst kind of. It's like the kind of guy, if you got stuck in an elevator with him, you're just like, oh God, I don't want to be here. To see him play such a sleazebag is really awesome. It's such a weird turn for that actor, for Hugh Grant, that every time he was on screen, I loved it. Like, it was great. And he's in the movie a lot. He acts as our de facto narrator throughout the film. Other actors do a really great job too. Matthew McConaughey does a really good job as this kind of understated, drug lord. It's not a kind of role that really is going to blow your mind, but he does a really good job with what he's given. Charlie Hunnam, same deal. He's kind of an understated gangster kind of character, but he's sort of a posh, well-dressed, well-to-do gangster type. So it's interesting to see this really well-dressed guy get into, doing crazy gangster stuff. Colin Farrell does a really good job as this aging coach character who's trying to mentor these young gangster kids out of the gangster lifestyle. It's kind of interesting. Henry Golding does a really good job as our main antagonist in the film. And of course we have Michelle Dockery, who is the wife of Matthew McConaughey's character, who is just awesome. She just seems like this really powerful, really strong, awesome woman. And she's not in the movie very much, but every time she's in a scene, it's like, wow, there's just a totally different energy in the scene, and it feels really cool. And her outfits are awesome. One thing I have to call out is the music. I think it does a really good job. The movie starts with this, I don't even know what song it was, but there was a really great song that kicked off the film, and it just gives a really good energy and sets the tone really well for the film. The music throughout the film is pretty good in establishing not only the film's tone, but also the tone of different characters throughout the film as we meet them. The number one thing I think this film does the absolute best is character introductions. I swear that every character in this film feel like they could carry their own movie. That's the crazy part about it, is that they all feel fleshed out and deep and really dynamic in a way where you kind of want to watch these different characters go about their lives and see what they're up to. And that's a sign of just great storytelling. But I was just impressed at every single time we met a new character. It gave a new spin on it. It gave a really unique introduction to each one, and it made them all really dynamic and really cool to watch. So the first act of this movie is awesome. Like, it just sets a great tone. You meet all these interesting, really cool characters. It really sets the energy of everything in a really positive direction moving forward. And it's just so much fun. Okay, I've talked the film up. I've said all the things I love about it. What are the things I don't love about the film? Well, there's really only one thing. But the thing that really kills the film for me is the ending. The ending just left me cold. I left the theater and I just sort of was very ambivalent about the film, which felt weird to me because I spent almost my entire time in the theater loving the experience. I loved the scenes, the characters, the twists, the turns, all that stuff felt great. It felt so great. The ending happened and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, that's a thing, I guess. And it's sort of like a great Olympic floor gymnast. They're doing all these flips and twirls and tumbles and cool stuff, and it's like, wow. And then at the very end, they just face plant. And it's like, man, that really killed it for me. Like, all the flips are great, but when you got to get taken out of the room in a stretcher, it kind of really detracts from the experience. You know what I mean? Is the film terrible? No, not at all. I don't think the film's terrible at all, but it definitely ends on a kind of whatever note. Is it bad? No, it's not bad. Is it great? No, it's not great. Is it good? Yeah, I think it is good. I think all the other things in the movie make it a worthwhile watch for a lot of people. So with that being said, my final rating for The Gentleman is an 8 out of 10. Again, I loved so much of this movie. There's so many parts of this movie that I think are wonderful, and they come together in a really, really cool way. But it really sort of doesn't work for me at the very end. And I don't know if other people are going to feel that way. I would understand if somebody rated this movie a 10 out of 10. But for me, the ending just fell apart. It just didn't really work. But overall, I like it. It is a good movie. But do I think it's going to be a classic that people are going to be talking about in 10 years, 20 years? No, I don't at all. I feel like this is going to be one of those movies where in 5 years, 6 years, somebody will mention it and people will be like, what movie was that? And they'll be like, oh, it was the Matthew McConaughey drug dealing movie. And people are like, oh yeah, where he was in Britain with selling the weed. And they're like, yeah. And that'll be the end of the conversation. So final recommendation, if you are really into crime dramas and crime thrillers and action movies with a little bit of comedy in them, sort of like a Goodfellas, you'll probably enjoy this movie a lot. I think you'll enjoy the experience at the theater. For most other people, if you are just looking for like a good comedy movie to see or a good action movie to see, I don't know if this would really work for you necessarily. It's a fine movie, but it's not great. So I think most people would be better off by just waiting to see the film on streaming services or renting it. I don't know if this is really a movie you need to go out to theaters and see in person, but it is fun, and if you're even vaguely interested and you see the trailer and think it looks really good, then yeah, give it a whirl. Thank you so much for watching my review of The Gentleman. If you like the content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that standard YouTube stuff. It really helps me out. And until next time, you have a good one.